So I wanted to open this video up by saying that I don't really want to blame Kent Hughes for this. You saw the title, you saw the thumbnail, you're probably wondering, oh, what's this mistake that the Montreal Canadiens made? And I'll say this right here, the mistake isn't anything that the Canadiens did. It's more so something that the Canadiens didn't do. And this is one of those things where the only reason we're even talking about this is because of hindsight. You never want to be a hindsight Harry. Hindsight can be a devil. But even though that's the case, I still feel like it's fair to go out there and bring this name up because it was very apparent that the Montreal Canadiens were, at a time, close to acquiring this guy. So today, we are heading over to arguably Kent Hughes' biggest mistake of this previous offseason, the potential acquisition of one Martin Necas. And yeah, if you've been following this channel for the past, let's just say 8 months or so, there was always a big discussion going on about this guy and the Montreal Canadiens that bled into last season and beyond. This is because in 2023-2024, Martin Necas went from a 71-point guy to a 53-point guy with the Carolina Hurricanes. His ice time was significantly reduced. There was a lot of controversy as to whether or not he would request a trade. There were conversations about him leaving because he needed a contract extension and because he hadn't gotten it so late into the year. Necas was given a lesser role, he wasn't given much security with his team, and as a result, you had teams tossing themselves left and right to potentially make a trade for this player. And none other is the more notable one than the Montreal Canadiens. Here is a tweet made by Pierre LeBrun going out there and talking about it from yesterday's TSN broadcast. The Carolina Hurricanes talked to 28 of the other 31 teams about Martin Necas, and they got some serious trade offers as well. Winnipeg and Montreal were among them. Obviously, the Hurricanes must be pretty happy they talked through their issues. And oh yeah, we can talk about Winnipeg too, right? Okay, maybe it's not that bad for Winnipeg because they're actually doing very well this season, but still, Montreal, I'd say, had the most to gain out of this conversation. We had been making videos every week. Here's the newest and latest trade update with Martin Necas and the Montreal Canadiens. Here's the Martin Necas and, I don't know, the Calgary Flames and the Canucks and the Winnipeg Jets and these other teams that are potentially getting involved and maybe trying to make some sort of a deal work. We had a ton of conversations about this guy, but that entire saga wrapped up when the Carolina Hurricanes signed Martin Necas to a 2-year deal worth $6.5 million a year. They took this guy who was on the decline because last season he produced fewer points than the year before that, and they said, here, we'll give you some money, $6.5 mil, it's hard to trade you, we can't trade you. There are a bunch of other teams that are going out there and trying to get you, but we can't really say yes to any of those moves, so here you go, just stick around. And I think the idea that a lot of people were sort of bringing up here was the fact that when this contract that Necas is on expires, he will be a UFA. So this takes him straight to unrestricted free agency, where Necas will be able to re-sign with either the Carolina Hurricanes if he wants to, or he'll be able to sign anywhere without any quandaries because it's unrestricted. He's got the right to go wherever he wants. I think it's fair to say that was sort of the price to pay here because Carolina, there was already an idea floating around that Necas did not want to stay in Carolina. But of course, for the Hurricanes, they're like, yeah, you're a good enough player, like you help us out. You're not maybe number one winger material because we're playing you further down the lineup, but you're still a good enough player that makes us better. So of course we want to keep you around here. So just take this money, it takes you until UFA status, and then in 2026 you can leave, you can go wherever it is you want, and you can make as much money as you want. No more trade stuff going through our filter in order for you to get moved. But here's the thing. Martin Necas, after not being a part of any trades to Winnipeg or Montreal, has gone out there with a season that I think nobody expected, and more people are surprised to see than not. Necas, with the Hurricanes in 2024-2025, has 31 points in 19 games. He is on pace for 133 points and 47 goals. This dude had 29 assists last year in 77 games. This year in 19 games, he has 20. He has accomplished 2/3 of his assist production from last year, In what is 19 divided by 77? That's a quarter of the games. Martin Necas has been an over-point per game monster, and if you go over to the National Hockey League in its entirety, Necas is third overall in the league in points. He's got more points than Nikita Kucherov, Jack Eichel, Leon Draisaitl, Mikko Rantanen, Cale Makar, Lindstrom, Mitch Marner, Ovechkin, some fellow named Connor McDavid, some other dude named Jack Hughes, Artemi Panarin is on here too. Martin Necas is only being outscored by Kirill Kaprizov and Nathan McDaddy McKinnon. He is one of the top players in the league this year. And the crazy part is, it's like, I don't necessarily think he's going to fall off too hard. Like, of course, he's on pace for 133 points this year. Great. Like, is he going to get 133 points this year? I'm not too sure. Like, if Martin Necas gets a 100-point season, I think everybody's going to be happy with that. But the thing is, Necas is so good and he is so skilled that if he ends off the season with at least 85 to 90 points, I think that's maybe like, I'd say the baseline at this point. Assuming he plays 82 games, I think anything under a 90-point season would be somewhat disappointing considering the start he has had. If he gets up to 100 or 110, 120, then you're laughing, then you're clapping, then you're saying, yeah, let's go. It is amazing that you re-signed and that you stayed here. Because the Carolina Hurricanes were in a pretty vulnerable spot to trading him away. And here's the thing as well, I wanted to dive into this question because I know it's going to come up in the comments section. Some of y'all like to get the fantasy booking out there. If Martin Necas was on Winnipeg, for example, is there a guarantee that he'd be producing as much as he is in Carolina? No, not necessarily, but I will say he probably would be producing more in Winnipeg compared to if he was traded over to Montreal instead. The reason I say that is because the Winnipeg Jets have been an absolute wagon this season. Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele have been tearing things up, not to mention Nikolai Ehlers, who is also a point per game. And then on D, you've got Josh Morrissey and Neil Pionk, who are doing amazing things. These guys are Norris-caliber defensemen. And I say defensemen, plural, because Neil Pionk is having a season for the ages. Nobody thought he'd be able to do what he's doing this year, but man oh man is Neil Pionk up there. 17 points in 19 games this season. He is outproducing Adam Fox. If Martin Necas was on Winnipeg, I think he would still be able to produce pretty heavily. Maybe as much as he is right now in Carolina? Who really knows? If he was on Montreal, though, oh boy, no chance. No chance that if Martin Necas was playing on the Montreal Canadiens in 24-25, he'd have 30 freaking points in 19 games. There's no way. The Montreal Canadiens, I'd say, are a little bit too inconsistent with the rest of their forwards and their offensive core to be able to sustain that kind of point production for even one guy. Now, I get it. You can say that for the Carolina Hurricanes, you can say similar things. Hey, Martin Necas is above and beyond the best player on that team. So what gives, Lego? Could you not make the argument that Martin Necas would be producing similarly in Montreal because he'd be helping out a bunch of guys there like he is in Carolina? Well, here's the thing. I feel like Carolina is just a much deeper team in general compared to Montreal. Therefore, it would allow Necas to get more point production no matter who it is that he plays with. For example, the Carolina Hurricanes, their 10th best player on the team in points is Jesperi Kotkaniemi, who has 11 points in 19 games. The 10th best player on the Montreal Canadiens in points is Kirby Dach with 8. In fact, the Montreal Canadiens' 4th best scorer in Juraj Slafkovsky and Lane Hudson, they have 11 points. So these guys have the same amount of points as the 10th overall guy in Carolina. You're just getting more point production, more goal production, more offense from different parts of the lineup in Carolina compared to what you're seeing in Montreal. Therefore, if Martin Necas was on Montreal, his point production probably would go down too because the guy's on pace for as many assists as he had points in prior years. This year, okay, that kind of sounded stupid. He's had a career high of 71 points in his career, Martin Necas has. This year, he is on pace for 86 assists. Just by itself, he's on pace for more assists than he's ever had points in a season. And I don't know if he would have been able to do that in Montreal, so I don't want to say necessarily this is the worst mistake possible for Montreal and Winnipeg, but darn, they were in it for this guy. They wanted him, and now he is the 3rd best point scorer in the league. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Martin Necas and this entire conversation. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.